You've probably heard companies talk about restructuring or improving efficiency, and let's be honest, it can sound a little confusing, maybe even a bit scary. But what if we looked at it differently, not as some big mystery, but more like a corporate fitness plan? You know, a structured program to get lean, get strong, and get financially healthy. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that exact playbook and break down how companies try to get in shape for the future.
So here's our game plan. We're going to walk through this in 5 steps. First, the financial wake-up call. Then, how they actually design the fitness regimen. After that, we'll see the workout in action. We'll also cover how they manage to avoid injuries, and finally, we'll step on the scale to see if it all actually worked.
You know, every fitness journey starts with that one moment of truth. And for a company, it's that financial wake-up call. That point where the leadership looks at the numbers and just goes, okay, something's got to change. This isn't sustainable.
We've all heard that phrase, haven't we? Improving efficiency. It's the classic corporate line for big changes. But what it really is the starting pistol for a really deep strategic process to completely overhaul how the company spends its money. And it's not just about spending less, it's about spending smarter.
So the very first step is basically a health checkup. Before you can make any kind of plan, you have to know exactly where you're starting from. Management takes a really hard look at the books to see where every single dollar is going. And as you can see here, it's pretty common for people, the payroll and benefits, to be the biggest slice of that pie. Understanding this is absolutely critical, because it shows where any changes might have the biggest impact. Think of this as the before picture.
Now here's the official goal right out of the playbook, and I want you to pay attention to those last 3 words, maintaining operational stability. See, the point isn't to just slash and burn until the company can't even function anymore. A good plan is surgical. It's all about reducing costs in a very planned, tracked way that keeps the business running as smoothly as possible. Well, that's the idea anyway.
Okay, so the financial checkup is done, they know where the problems are. Now it's time to actually build the fitness regimen. This is where the real strategy kicks in, moving from just understanding the issue to creating a super detailed plan to fix it.
A smart fitness plan is never about doing everything all at once. It's got to be phased. So the strategy usually starts with what they call quick wins. You know, the low-hanging fruit that can get you some fast savings. From there, they move into the bigger changes over the next few months, and then finally, they tackle the deep structural stuff that's needed for long-term health. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at the level of detail and accountability here. A plan like this is never some vague idea. It's a concrete set of numbers. Every single department gets a specific target, and a specific leader, like C. Miller or J. Chen, is named as the person responsible for hitting that number. This makes sure that everybody knows exactly what their role is in the bigger picture. There's no hiding.
So the plan is set, the targets are all assigned. Now comes the really hard part, the workout. This is the point where the company actually starts doing the things designed to bring those costs down.
So what are the core exercises in this corporate workout? Well, it's usually a mix of tactics. It could be things like going back to your suppliers and renegotiating for better deals, or using technology to automate tasks. Then there are the tougher moves, like workforce optimization, which, can mean restructuring or even layoffs. They might also consolidate office space to save on rent or streamline their supply chain. Every single one of these is a huge project all by itself.
This chart really visualizes the goal in concrete terms. For each category, whether it's fixed costs, variable costs, or overhead, there's a clear before and a target after. That gap between the 2 bars, that represents the total savings the company's trying to achieve. It turns a big, abstract goal into a measurable finish line.
Okay, but let's be real. Any intense workout comes with the risk of injury. And in the corporate world, that injury usually involves people, morale, and relationships. Any smart company knows it has to manage this human side of the equation very, very carefully.
Smart leadership always anticipates these problems. A risk assessment like this one makes it crystal clear. During times of uncertainty, there's a high probability that productivity is going to dip. And look at the next one. The risk of losing your best people, who might get spooked and leave, has a high impact. Ignoring these human factors is just a recipe for disaster.
So how do you manage these very real, very human risks? Well, the answer almost overwhelmingly comes down to one thing: communication. Being proactive, being transparent, and being as clear as you possibly can is the single best way to reduce fear, keep your best talent, and keep the business stable while all this change is happening.
And that thinking gets turned into a real, documented communication plan. Because different groups need to hear different things, right? Employees, they need transparency and to know what support is available. Investors need to understand the financial strategy. And your vendors, they need to be reassured about the future of your partnership. A specific, targeted communication plan like this is absolutely non-negotiable.
All right, we've gone through the workout. We've managed the risks. Now, it's time for the final weigh-in. How does a company actually know if the fitness plan worked? Did they hit their goals?
Success isn't just a feeling, it's a number. Companies track very specific metrics to measure their progress. They're going to look at the monthly operating costs to see if it's actually going down. They'll track their gross margin, that's the profit on each sale, to see if they're more profitable. And they'll keep a close eye on their burn rate, how fast they're spending cash, to make sure they've built a truly sustainable financial foundation.
And this slide, this really sums up the whole transformation. This is the entire point of the exercise. It's all about moving from a high burn rate to stable cash flow, from being inefficient to operating at peak efficiency, and from having low margins to having healthy, sustainable profit. On paper, this is what success looks like.
But, just getting the numbers right is only half the battle. This whole entire process really hinges on this final critical question. A truly successful plan is one that gets the company financially healthy without sacrificing its future, the quality of its products, or the spirit of its people. Is it truly sustainable? That is the tightrope that every single leader has to walk.